In today's video, I am going to walk you through how to make your loadouts properly and answer all the questions your friends are probably asking you, because my friends ask me these questions all the time. So we're going to break it down into 4 categories. We're going to do assault rifles, we're going to do SMGs, sniper rifles, and shotguns. We don't really need pistols and launchers and melees. You don't need help with that. So let's jump right in and clarify a few things with assault rifles. So now with Black Ops 7 and the Warzone integration, we're going to have 5 attachments that we can do. But there are 2 most important things when you're making a loadout. 1 is the damage range and 2 is the bullet velocity. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on those 2 first because they get mixed up and a lot of people ask me questions about them. So I want to be crystal clear on them so I can help everybody out. Let's talk about damage range. Now we're going to see this in barrels, right? The first thing we're going to see. And if you look on the right side here, you're going to see pros and cons. We all know that. And the first one on this gun, and this is the M15, it doesn't matter. They're all kind of the same when it comes to assault rifles and barrels, but you're going to see damage range. Now, if you look a little bit closer here, right down at the damage range area underneath the body, you will see distances. So 0 to 44 meters, any shot there in that meter range is 32 points of damage. Now, keep in mind, 300 points is what downs a player, okay? So then 44 to 63 is 26 damage, and 63 to infinity is 22 damage on this gun with this barrel, right? So keep in mind, we're talking about damage range. Now look, if I go to the Delta F2 barrel, it does change 0 to 38 now. So the distance changed, but the damage it inflicts doesn't. So think about that when you're making your loadouts, right? Because most gunfights from an assault rifle should be between 0 and 50 meters. 50 to 100, it's gonna be hard to track, but you guarantee a better gunfight if you're right around the 40 to 50 meter range. So look at that right when you're making the barrels, right? So we have the mid-range barrel, we have the hybrid barrel. Now that's going to be a little different, right? So if we go back up to the long barrel, long means more range. Hybrid is like in between. You're going to get more range and bullet velocity, which we'll touch on bullet velocity here in a minute. So 0 to 41 instead of 0 to 44, you can see those change. So you got to just know your particular style of fighting. This is why sometimes when you go and copy other creators' builds and stuff like that, and you're like, it just doesn't feel right. It's usually the ranges and the bullet velocity. There's a couple other metrics too we're going to get to in SMGs, but those are the main 2 when you're looking at long distance fights. You have the short barrel, which is going to go back to 0 to 38. So that's really going to go back to that. And then we have the controlled barrel, again, 0 to 38, 38 to 55, 55, and on. Now, for me, when I'm making a loadout for an assault rifle, I really want a good damage range. So for me, I'm either using the long barrel or the hybrid barrel. Now, the only reason I would use the hybrid barrel is because it does give me a little bit more bullet velocity. And if I can't get the bullet velocity from other attachments, then I go back. But for this particular one, you're going to want to go with the long barrel. You're going to get longer range distances and you'll be able to inflict more damage at longer ranges. Now, there is a caveat, and I hate to throw this at you, but there are 2 different styles of gameplay in this game. You have Big Map and you have Resurgence. Resurgence, you can do the hybrid barrel that gives you a little bit more damage and more bullet velocity. You don't need long barrels on the smaller maps because the sight lines are not as long. They are pretty short. So hybrid barrel on Resurgence maps for me, long barrel on bigger maps, like you got your Avalon coming out in the spring, you got Verdansk right now, those would get the more damage ranges, but it depends on your style. So you should have 2 different loadouts. You should have one for Big Map and one for Haven's Hollow and Rebirth, but it just depends. If you never play Big Map, then you don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, make sure you're making 2 different loadouts because most people try to use the same one and it's just not as effective. Okay, so if we're playing Resurgence, I would go with the hybrid barrel here. Now we got our locked in on our damage ranges. Let's talk about bullet velocity, okay? So on this particular AR, as you can see on the screen, it has 950 milliseconds, which on this barrel gave us 8% more bullet velocity. But what does bullet velocity actually mean? Let me walk you through it. It's pretty simple. I get asked this all the time from my bird gang. Here's what it means. The time it takes for you to press the trigger to when that bullet hits the operator. That is what bullet velocity is. So the more bullet velocity you have, the less you have to track along the screen, and the quicker it will hit the operator. So think about that. There are diminishing returns though. So like when you get too high, it's not really that effective. It's real close to hit scan, which is about 13, 14, 1500 bullet velocity. You don't really need it to get super high. But again, the time it takes for you to hit the trigger and then that bullet to hit the operator. So the higher the bullet velocity, and keep in mind, we're just talking about assault rifles right now, the better. So on a hybrid barrel, on Resurgence, I'm at 950. You really want your bullet velocity over 1000. Then you don't have to lead shots a lot. You don't have to think about it. It's more pull the trigger, hit the operator. So to get that, you're going to do a couple different things. One, you go over to fire mod. Then you're going to go to the overpressured rounds, and you can see right now, but just by doing that, I'm going up 20%. So I'm at 1140 on this. So on this particular gun, I'm at 1140 bullet velocity. That's great bullet velocity. We could stop making the loadout for this particular thing right here. We have two attachments. We got the barrel, which gave us more bullet velocity and more damage. And we got the fire mod that gave us more bullet velocity. So there's 3 more attachments, and we're just talking about assault rifles that you can do. What I would lock in here on, you're gonna need a bigger magazine because you want that damage per mag. You want as high as you can. So on this one, you're gonna wanna do the 60 round mag or the 45 round mag if you have it unlocked. I can unlock the 60. I'll just keep ranking up the gun. It just depends on that reload quickness, but the higher the mag, the better. And then that'll give you more, if you're in quads and trios, it gives you more bullets to move from target to target. Now we have 2 more attachments. We really need to look at a muzzle, which can do a couple different things here. If you wanted more bullet velocity, you could go to the monolithic. As you can see with the monolithic, it goes up 20 more %. So you could get 1368 bullet velocity. Now, personally, from me, for playing for the last 5 years, almost 6 years of this game, 1368 is great if you can control the recoil. Now, that's where it comes into play. So for me, a skilled player, I've been playing for 5-6 years on this game, I can control the recoil. So I could, in fact, go ahead and do this, and it would keep me off the mini map. But keep in mind, this is a Rebirth Island map. This is a Rebirth Island gun. This is a Haven's Hollow gun. If I was on big map, for sure, if I was on Resurgence, I wouldn't use this. I would go look at something that controls the recoil, whether it be the brake, whether it be the suppressor to keep me off the mini map, whether it be the compensator. So those are going to be your controls for the recoil here. Now I would go ahead and get recoil control. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 attachments. We have 1 left. Now, a lot of people go in and they're like, oh, I want to get ADS and I could do horizontal recoil control and recoil stabilization on the stabilized grip. That is true. You could use that, which is great. It's going to reduce that by 15%. Or I would go into get an underbarrel, which is going to do a couple different things here. One, you can do the recoil control here, which has a bunch of different ones, 15%. You really want that last attachment to work on that recoil control for you. So your underbarrel or your rear grip is where you're going to find it. You don't need an aim down sight fast build on an assault rifle. You're wasting the attachment. But right now, as we sit, I am sitting at 1140 on the bullet velocity. I'm sitting at great damage ranges here that I feel comparable on it. And then I'm going to stabilize it with either an underbarrel or a rear grip. Now let's get into SMGs. It's a little bit different story with SMGs. So let's talk about SMG fights. Your SMG fights are close range fighting. They are in buildings. They should not be going farther than about 10 meters. So if we go into the fire range, you can see this here. So this is 10 right here. This is where the line is. Now 25, that is too far. That is not an SMG fight. That should be this. So you need to train yourself that kind of knowing the distances. You should be using AR for 25 and longer. 10 to 20 is going to be your mark for your SMGs. Think about being in buildings and you're clearing buildings. You're in grandma's house. You're in Main Street in Haven's Hollow. you're looking at these kind of ranges. So you need to build this gun a little bit differently. So same kind of thought process is we want to look at damage ranges, and then we want to look at bullet velocity. Now on this, for your damage ranges, you want to go into your barrels, right? Again, same idea, damage ranges here. So 0 to 13, 13 to 23, and 23 and through infinity, right? So that's on your long barrel. You don't need a long barrel on an SMG. So you never need this unless, I'll give you the caveat, unless you are building a sniper support build. Trust me, I know I'll get it in the comments. People are like, well, I use it for this. I understand. But the majority of us who just work all day and then come home and want to play, we don't need the long barrel, okay? We're casual players. We're not sweaty. All right, so long barrel's out. We don't need that on an SMG. Handling control barrel. Now this, what this does, and I do like it, is the recoil stabilization and the aim down sight speed. So a couple things on SMGs that you want to look at every single time. Here's the metrics that are important. Aim down sight speed. So that is your time it takes to aim down your gun. So if I go back into the firing range here, it's this time right here. That is you want as fast as possible. Sub 200 milliseconds, okay, is competitive. Now, if you can get it down really far, that's great, because the quicker you can do that, the faster you are to kill somebody. And if you're faster than the next guy, you're more apt to win the gunfight. So we want a barrel that's going to do that, right? Give us a little bit of perk there. So there's a couple different ones on this one. The handling control barrel, that's going to get it down to 169. Now this gun is the KGOT. It's in the battle pass. It's actually really good, fast TTK, and it already comes with a fast aim down sight, which you also want to look at the other metrics. So aim down sight's 1, sprint to fire speed, because what that means is if I'm running in the game and then I want to pull my gun up to shoot, I want it to be as fast as possible. Again, you want it to be faster than the next guy. Think about it as a race. It's a race to who can get their gun up faster, and it's a race who can be running and get their gun up faster to get the first shots off, because most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, if you get your shots off the first time before them, you're going to win the gunfight. So you want to look at aim down sight, sprint to fire. Now, for you sweaty players, if you're actually watching this video, the jumping aim down sight speed's nice too, because if you jump and you're trying to spread that buller pattern to get the headshot, because as you can see, there's headshot multipliers, then you want your jumping aim down sight speed to be up too, but that's another video. All right, so aim down sight and sprint to fire. Those are our key learnings here under handling, is what you really want to look at. So we got the control barrel. We have the hybrid barrel that's going to give us the bullet velocity. We'll get into that in a second on SMGs. And then we have the short barrel. But look at this. We do change the damage ranges, right? So we're 0 to 12. This is all 0 to 12, 0 to 13. So keep in mind when you're taking those gunfights, the damage fault drop off, right? So if I'm doing a short barrel, anything between 12 and 20 meters is going to be 4 points less on the damage. So you're like, wait a second, it didn't kill as fast. That's because the range was a little bit farther than you judged. So make sure you understand that. So, but your short barrel, look at these numbers. These are great. Look at these numbers. These are great. Aim down sight speed at 150 milliseconds. Jump aim down sight 184, sprint to fire 80 milliseconds. That is so fast. So that would be the barrel I would choose, the short barrel. You could do mid-range, but I'm looking for an SMG. Again, that moves my movement speed up. I got my sprint to fire speed, and we haven't even gone into another attachment. This is just the barrel. Okay, so we got the short barrel. We understand what we're looking for. Now we're gonna go over and we're gonna need the magazine, which we talked about. So again, we're gonna want the biggest magazine. That will hurt our aim down sight, as you can see. What we got it down low before, we're still under that 200 milliseconds, so we're good. It went up 13, but we're good. So we're gonna go ahead and take the 50 round mag, which we're gonna need. Now we're gonna look at a couple different things. The rear grip is a really important grip, because look, we can drive down that aim down sight speed I was talking about. Or we could drive down the sprint to fire or the horizontal recoil. But what I like to do is the Remedy light grip, because again, look at the specs on this: dive to fire, slide to fire, aim down sight, and jumping. It reduces all of it, and we're back down to 142. So that's going to be nice. And so we have what? We got 3 on here, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, here's what I do. If I like the iron sights, then I don't need an optic, but most of the time I like an optic. This one's not too bad, but what the problem is when you're aiming down and somebody's coming down the stairs or somebody drop shots you, this aim down sight right here, these crosshairs these crosshairs will get in the way and block that person who's drop shot me. So I usually tend to go with an optic. That is the reason, unless the iron sights, like I said, or crosshairs or whatever you want to call them, are pretty good. Now on the KGOT, they're actually not too bad, so I wouldn't use an optic here. You know, mouse and key players, if you're watching, most time mouse and key players use an optic. I think it's smart. I was a mouse and key player for about 9 months until I switched to controller for this game, because just aim assist, even with the nerf, it just helps in the game for sure. Okay, so knowing that, I'm not going to put an optic on. Now here's where we come into a couple different things. One, there's two trains of thought here on the muzzle and the suppressors, because here's the thing. Think about it this way. You're playing with your buddies. You just got home from work. You've been playing for like an hour. How many times do you hear gunfire and then you look at your mini map? I would bet you don't do it that much. If you do it a lot, I would definitely get a suppressor, because then other people will be doing it too. And what will happen is if you shoot your shot, a little dot will come up on the mini map showing other teams where you are. I think it's too hectic, especially in resurgence modes, maybe more in battle, right? Big map, because you can pay attention more and then be more strategic. But I would say I don't run a suppressor on my gun on an SMG, only because, again, they're short range gunfights, they're inside buildings, they're not long range, so I don't need that. So I don't usually run a muzzle unless I need a lot of recoil control. And on this particular gun, you just easy to test. You just go in here, drop the bar right here, hit your down D-pad, and then don't hold your stick. So let's look at the recoil, and I'm not holding my stick at all. So this is going to be the recoil right here. It's straight up, which I can control. That's not a problem, right? So I can just sit here and do this, and it's easy to control. No problem on the recoil. So know the recoil pattern, and I haven't even put anything on really for recoil. So again, this is all your preference, kind of what you liked and how you want to do it. So I don't really do that. You can do that, to each their own. I understand if you want to do that to get yourself off the mini map, but a couple different things you can do. If you're going to do it, do the recoil control, looking at, okay, vertical recoil is probably going to be the best way of doing that. Or this one also has the all hip fire spreads, slide to die fire speeds. All of this will increase. So you could do it that way and use the ported comp. That's a great new great new muzzle they added to the game. So that would work for you as well. Underbarrels here are good too. It's more recoil control, and you're going to have some aim walking speed, movement speed. I like movement speed. I'm a movement speed guy. I like feeling fast. I like outmaneuvering. I like feeling in control. So the mobility foregrip or the mobility recoil foregrip is what I would use. I would probably use the mobile recoil foregrip, only because 20% reduction in recoil control, and then look at the mobility, 7, 8, and 5 goes up fast. I like a movement speed, so we're gonna do that. So we got 4 on here. Now we're gonna look at fire mods for your SMG. Here's a couple different things. The rapid fire rate, you don't really need. It's a waste of time. Yes, it goes up 5%, but think about it. Return on investment, right? You're investing in a spot that you only have 5 of. Bulk carry group rapid fire is a waste. Now, this is where we get into bullet velocity. On SMGs, you do not need more bullet velocity. Unless, come on, keyboard warriors, don't yell at me. Unless you are building a sniper support build, then you need more bullet velocity. But a true SMG AR experience, you don't need it. I'm telling you right now. Okay, so what I would do is go into fire mod. I would throw on the recoil springs, because that's going to give you 10% reduction across the board on gun kick, horizontal recoil control, and vertical recoil control. And that is your SMG builds. Now, again, to recap SMG, the most important stats you want to look at are your sprint to fire time, your ADS time, aim down sight, and then your damage ranges. So then you're not second guessing. So on this gun, we know 0 to 12, 12 to 20, and 20 to infinity is where it's at, and those are the damages. So then you can get your damage points. So 32, 28, and 22. It also changes between SMGs, but those are the main things. Now let's look at snipers. Snipers are very similar, okay? So this is the base build of the VS Recon, which is a fun gun to use. Now look, on the damage distribution chart right here, 360, it's double up. So you're going to get a downed, so one shot headshot for a sniper. Unless that person's running a survivor perk, and hey, I have my perk video that just came out. I'll leave the card up here. If you don't know what perks to run, check that out and you'll be able to get that. But again, snipers, here's where it's at. You wanna make sure your damage ranges are high and your bullet velocity. It makes using that so much easier. So a couple different things. One, let's go to the barrels, right? We got our long barrel, which again, this is probably going to be for big map, unless you love sniping on the small map, and we can get you a different barrel for that. But look at the ranges here. So on the long barrel, 0 to 109, 109 for infinity on distance. Otherwise, you got the bullet velocity barrel, which gives you a 27%, but look at the distance. You got to judge. Then you have the hybrid barrel. Then you have the short barrel, which would, if you look at the bottom right, that's for you quick snipes that you like to do quick scoping on small map. That's, you got a lot of reduction there. And then you got right in between, right? You got the controlled barrel, which is going to help you with aiming idle split, aiming idle sway, flinch resistance, and bullet velocity. So the three key metrics on a sniper, it's a little bit different. Two are the same: damage range, bullet velocity, but aiming idle sway. Those are the three you want to control. Let me say it one more time. Damage range, bullet velocity, aiming, idle sway. That sway is this. When you pull the gun out, now, if you can control that, that's great. So what I do is I like a long range, right? So I'm going to do the long range barrel here because I'm going to pick up the bullet velocity, other parts of the gun. So I want those long ranges, right? So now I got the long barrel. Muzzle, this is where a key thing is here. So if you go down to firepower suppressor, the monolithic, 20% bullet velocity jump right there. See, none of these have it. These are all recoil control, which you don't need recoil control on a sniper. Okay, so 840, that's good. We're gonna throw that on. So we only have two attachments. We got good range. We got bullet velocity is okay, it's not great. So we want more. Fire mods. Again, I have to unlock this. I haven't unlocked it yet. I gotta get my prestige, so I gotta get my gun back up to 39. But when I get it, we're gonna be up to 15% more here on 966 for the bullet velocity. Now we're getting there. I like 1,000. I think that's the sexy number. It helps get kills just better. So I'll equip that, and that'll give us a 15% jump there. Then we're gonna go to magazine, and we're gonna have a couple different choices here. You got the 8, the 10, or the 6. Now I tend to go with the 8. I think that's good. It doesn't hurt as bad to your ADS because, again, I'm not sniping as a quick sniper. This is for big map or if I'm holding a position. So I want a little bit extra ammo so I don't have to go ahead and mess with the reloading all the time. Now, optics. One thing about the VS Recon is you don't need to put an optic. The optic is great. I love it. Like if you take a look at this, the optic on this is, if you haven't seen it, look at that. That is clean, clear, easy to see. That's what you want. You don't need to change that for anything. So don't waste your attachment on it. That's a waste of attachment. You don't want to do that. So you come back here, and on the barrel, I do want to say bullet velocity or the long barrel. Bullet velocity does give you a little bit more distance, so you could do both. Either way, it's going to be good. You get you up to that 1066 bullet velocity, which is a great place to go. And then when you go over to the fire mod and you go back to it, look now, 1226, and that is perfect for a sniper. You want 1226, but keep in mind the distance, right? 0 to 96 is 180, 96 plus is 180, so it doesn't really matter here. They're gonna inflict the same amount of damage. The damage doesn't change. So just, you're good there on your damage values. Now, if you're hitting a headshot, that's where you're gonna be one shot downing them. So, but 1226 here at bullet velocity is great. So now I'm gonna look at that aiming idle sway number that we talked about, okay? So one, it's gonna be in your rear grip. No, I lied, it's not. One, it's gonna be in your under barrel. It should be right here under your steady sway handguard. So that aiming idle sway, look at that, minus 40%. Aiming idle sway delay, plus 39%. You don't want it to go into effect. So you want something like that. That's a great number. It works really well. So then you don't have that sway and it's easy to use, right? So now we got our muzzle, monolithic suppressor, we got our G-force barrel, we got our handguard for the aiming idle sway, we got our magazine for extended, and then we have our fire mod, which I'll unlock here in a little bit because I'm level 31, but that'll throw on. So then we have the perfect sniper, 1226 bullet velocity, good damage range, good idle sway, controlling all of that. But that's how you do that for your sniper, just in case you were wondering. And then let's talk about shotguns, okay? A couple things here on shotguns. Shotguns don't get a lot of love, but it's the same kind of idea when you're building your shotgun, right? So one is you're gonna look at bullet spread, but first we really wanna look at damage ranges, okay? So on shotguns, look at that, 0 to 2, 2 to 7, 7 to 9, and 9 to 25. And that's on the quick load barrel. Heavy barrel, we want to look at all this. Does it change? It does. So the long barrel 17.5 gets you a little bit mid-range changes. Heavy long gets you a little bit mid-range changes. And then the sprint to fire barrel doesn't do anything for that. So then you're going to lock in your damage ranges, right? Same kind of idea. You go over to fire mods, and then you have your recoil springs. The dragon breaths reduce the damage, but they look cool. And then you have your shotgun slugs, which increase your bullet velocity, increase your recoil. Like there's a lot here that you could be doing. It does slow down your ADS, we'll make that up, but you want those, if you're a shotgun guy, you want those slugs. They give you a lot of distance. You could go up to the pump guide rod if you want rapid fire, but it's not really worth it. The slug rounds are where it's at. Then you want to go back in and you want to fix this ADS, okay? So like we talked about before, we want fast ADS. So on a fast ADS build, you're going to go into the laser and you're also going to want spread, but you got the hip fire spread, jumping hip fire spread, aim down sight, right? So that caps it down to another 5%. But keep in mind, so for your shotguns, it's the spread, it's the bullet velocity, and it's also how fast to reload. So you got a couple different things you can do on shotguns. But hey guys, that is how you make your loadouts. So stop making them wrong in Warzone Season 1. And if you want more videos from me, like I said earlier, check out this perk video. It'll teach you what perks you should be running now, and this settings video, which will give you all the settings you need to get set up for success for Warzone Season 1. And if you have time, we're getting real close to 10,000 subs. I think we're like 5, 6 away right now. Hit that sub button, help me out, push the channel forward. I appreciate everybody who's already done it, but turn the like button on, hit the like button, don't turn it on, turn on notifications, hit sub like I said. I got more videos coming out for you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Thanks.